Meow. Okay, I think this is working. What is this? Yes. No, that's... Oh dear. Hopefully you can see me. I can't see that I can see you seeing me because I've clicked a button and now YouTube has opened me in a live streaming view that's in a beta view, and I can't see the stream that I just started. Like, oh, there we go. I clicked that one, hopefully. And it thinks I'm streaming. I think I'm live. I can't see you. I need to scroll down perhaps to see what's going on. Oh, hi. Hi, Luca. Okay, good. I found the right things. I'm so sorry. I tried using a different UI today and it didn't work out. Okay, thank you. That's useful to know. So literally seconds before this, I received an email, or rather I was looking through my emails that I hadn't actually checked today, and there was an alert that said one of the Compiler Explorer instances had shut down in a way that's not expected. And I'm just looking at it here. So I get an email from a search that I run all the time on all of the output from everything, and this program node app.js exited is the sort of regular expression that it uses to pick up an unexpected exit. And I was just clicked on the thing and looked at it in context, and it looks like we ran out of memory. So something somewhere which was loading and parsing the output and splitting it on a new line into a, so I take a very long string, 4026603. Gosh, yes, that is very long. What is that? Yeah, 384 meg output. Not too surprising we ran out of memory processing that, but just something for me to think about. We're not very smart about like not just loading everything into memory because we're lazy. It's much more convenient to just process everything in line rather than try and use stuff that streams things off of disk. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. If I get a lot more of those, then I will worry. But for now, I am going to sort of give you an update. So the story so far, we are trying to move away from just relying on running everything inside Docker to give us isolation of the compilers for two reasons. One, and this LD preload trick that I have, which is this thingy up here, which is not great, which was supposed to stop the compilers from opening files that they shouldn't open, just to sort of mitigate, I don't know really, just mitigate things rather than make them go away. So anyway, from a security point of view, compilers are pretty scary attack surface. So I want to make sure that they're safe, but really this is a leg into being able to take the user's own compiled code and run it safely, as safely as we can. And the way that I'm trying to do that is using something called firejail, which is a technology for process isolation, sandboxing, whatever you want to call it. And that's great, and it's been working pretty well, and I want to use it both to run the compilers with a slightly more lenient setting to allow them to read things like their own license files and stuff. And also, I would like to use the same technology locked down as far as I can to run user code so that we can execute the code that people have typed into Compiler Explorer, which would be nice, right? So, yes, a gigabyte log file, yeah. So we had hit a problem, and that problem is that Wine likes to takes a long time to fire up, and we use Wine to run a very small subset of the compilers. Some of the compilers, the Windows compilers, the MSVC compilers, run under Wine, and Wine is very finicky about how it wants to work. It uses inter-process communication amongst other things. And so yesterday we spent a whole bunch of time getting like the Wine server to run in a jail, and then we connected to that jail, and everything was great up until we tried to actually compile some code, because connecting to that jail meant that we can't see the files that we had written to actually compile, because we live in the jail of the server, and the server doesn't have the access to the files. So kind of back to the beginning here. What I ended up doing last night was just hacking to just explore further the process and see what else is, what other things we needed to do. And so what I had discovered is that I could get the two processes to communicate with each other pretty reliably just by making sure that they whitelisted the same temporary directory. So that means that they're two separate, isolated execution environments sharing just a file system. And the file system meant that and presumably IPC space, so that the two could now actually share and communicate between each other. And that just seemed to be working, except that one of the processes would always just hang forever. And actually, in retrospect, this is what we were seeing yesterday with all that fiasco around spawn sync, and all that kind of nonsense. And just so my kids were at their music lessons, and I was just sat outside tapping away on my laptop, and I realised what it was. Unfortunately, my machine has now locked up, and I had to reboot since. Otherwise, I had the screen set up perfectly to show it. But what seems to happen is the first wine process that runs after the server gets lumbered with running all of the other background tasks, and they live forever, and that prevents the process group from terminating. So what I think we need to do is run the server and then run like the hostname command, the thing that I was running to test, run it but not expect it to ever quit, and then that will be the thing that will run the, oh gosh, what's it called, probably the best thing to do is to just show you. So I actually need to get these back up again because obviously everything disappeared. Let's go to compiler. No, it doesn't. You're right. Compiler Explorer. Oh, not the image. We've got a whole bunch of hacks here. And if we go over here, go to Compiler Explorer as well. And it still wants to put me in the image. That's not the one I meant. And let's just see what I get if I get n of this. Okay, this is what I was doing yesterday, so it's remembered some of this, even though I had to just hack away. So I'm using a wine.profile. Now this wine.profile I think is just empty at the moment. Wine.profile. Yes, everything is commented out because I'd much rather have everything just work and then incrementally add in the protection that we need. So with that, and I should show you the code that's running, which is pretty much a travesty. So in this initialize wine, we shut down any existing wines, which doesn't seem to work properly, and I need to fix that. And then the long-lived wine server runs here, and the trick here is we whitelist the prefix, which is the tump ce whatever it is. That means that the two processes will share that. It will actually be the one that's on the native system, the external system. And then afterwards, I tried 10 times to execute, because this is me thinking we needed to do a sleep. And now I don't think we do. I think I need to kill that sleep. I don't think we need to loop, because it's just going to work the first time. And then we're going to get rid of all that. And then that's going to be, if not okay, we're going to get rid of that too. And then that break doesn't make any sense, because I was in a loop before. We don't need that variable. So we've got this. We're going to say testing wine. So this is not going to be our testing wine command anymore. This is now actually going to be the... more likely my laptop sucks for this. So my laptop is very good. I'm very, very happy with it. But the docking station, the Lenovo docking station that it plugs into, has been a source of much trouble. I've been through 2 of them so far. And I actually have to have Windows on this to go and flash upgrade the BIOS on the firmware on the adapter itself. Everything else runs perfectly well. I mean, I can run for update. In fact, I was doing this earlier just to make sure I had everything up to date. Get updates. You know, everything's up to date here. I've got the latest version, and it can actually flash upgrade the firmware and everything, and the BIOS just works. It's lovely, and no one was more surprised than me when that all just worked. But then I bought the docking station, so I have a reasonably large monitor here, and then I have the laptop itself set on the side, and I use both of these things. It's just unplugging and plugging that docking station that explodes it sometimes. Okay, so yeah, it's a pain. Right. So where were we anyway? We were talking about what this is going to do. So this is just going to run hostname. Now that is I'm expecting that to output to standard out, and we will see that. But then it will hang forever because because of the things I hopefully can just about demonstrate. Right, so I'm just going to say goodbye to my wife. See you in a bit. Okay, so that's not going to ever return. And let's just run make dev, all of that stuff there. At least I know there are no firejails running, because what we were doing yesterday was picking up more and more firejails. So no firejails running right now. Okay, hostname ran. And now you can see it's taking a long time because things are starting up for the very first time. Kernel K. So this is the output of the hostname. And then you're like, why is it not returning? But I found this command. And we can see that we have two process jails. One is the one that I was expecting. This is running the wine server. And that's great. I want that to be the long-lived process. This one here, this other one, is the hostname command, where hostname is exited, but you can see that we're running services and winedevice.exe. And that will run forever and a day now. So what I think we need to do is come up with a way of determining that the long-lived processes are A-OK and running, but then leave it going. Leave that going. And then now I think, for example, if I were to steal this command, so I need to do n wine prefix equals all of this nonsense, etc. Wine prefix, that's correct. So C wine prefix C program wine list equals temp wine prefix. Okay, now I should be able to run user lib. Oh, user. It's not user lib, isn't it? It's slash user bin wine 64 stable. Now I should be able to run arbitrary short-lived commands. Let's just run hostname, and they just work. And that's what I want. So I can get rid of this and put quiet there. That's what I want to happen. I want the compilers to fire up as quickly as that every single time, and I want them to exit once they're done. And that would be lovely. So we now need to conspire for that to happen. And of course, the people across the road have just decided to start mowing the lawn. Oh, it's probably for the school, which is a source of much noise around here. So apologies for the background noise right now. Let me move this a bit closer to me. I should probably get one of those headset mics. It's just I really like this microphone. Oh, he's just gone past. There is all manner of weird things outside. We're close to a university, and the person who runs the university, the dean, their house is around the corner. It's a huge thing, and so they have an army of people who mow the lawn and whatever. So I think that was for that. So hopefully that's going away from us. All right. So this is what I want to happen. So I think if I, instead of using spawn sync, I use spawn, it's just going to run in the background. But what I need to do is I need to wait really until the noise is now going to get to me. This is where I wish I could put music on, but I'm wary of putting music on in my own headphones in case it leaks into the recording. Oh, thank you, Luca. I'm glad. The microphone is set up specifically with the magical settings so that it should be only picking up from the front. But it's loud enough that it's distracting me, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's distracting you. So yeah, I would like to run this thing long-lived, but I need it to have finished and completed and run and executed. So before we go on, so I wonder if, I mean, at the moment, this cheesily, this initialized wine is not returning a promise, which means I can't do asynchronous things in it. But I think everything else that uses it returns a promise. So I can potentially chain these things up and actually have some asynchronousness going on. That is obviously a bit of work. So we're just going to use spawn, and then I'm going to do a terrible thing right here, which is going to go back to some synchronous blocking, I equals 0, I is less than 10, plus I loop, where I am going to read from the host name until I see like the output. So I'm going to put quiet in here because And we're going to say something like, what are we going to say? We're going to say, all right, yes, child process. This is the only way I've found of like doing a blocking sleep for now. Not spawn. We want to exec sync sleep 1. Terrible, terrible, hacky. Want to just prove out this is the right way to do. Have you tried humming? Thank you, Ben. And hi, and hello, Anderson, as well. Yes, I haven't tried humming. Because probably anything I hum would probably be copyrighted as well, in which case I'd end up not only polluting your poor ears with my terrible singing, but also falling afoul of copyright violations. So then we're going to sleep for now, and then I'm going to just, I am going to do logger.info. We have host name, and I'm also, I think this is something called output in here. As it stood out, it's a stream. What does a stream give me? I can do the on and all that kind of stuff. Do I have to set that up? I know I am setting it up for earlier execution stuff. I thought, well, I'm going to just wing it and see what we get out of this. So that's going to crash the process, and I think, unfortunately, we're going to end up with more and more and more of these firejail things turning up. Yes, so kernel K ran, and we still apparently did not see any output. Testing wine was the last info we saw. Maybe I need to use that detach flag. Do you remember we had a flag before? And certainly when I run the normal compilers, I supply that detached flag. Let's make that look a bit prettier. Okay, trying again. Okay, but I thought spawn. Oh, we should be doing that sleep 1. That's interesting. It doesn't seem to be getting past. Oh no. Testing 1. I've already got this one up here. That's terrible of me. All right, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of the detached true, because unless we actually need it, I don't want to add in weird things. And in a second, I'm gonna have to kill all firejails because I'm gonna have thousands of them running. Okay, splop. And we output whatever we see out of it, and yeah, okay, I think we're going to have to, unfortunately, write the code properly. So I have this code up here which sets up the stream.onData, and we do some things here. It does seem annoying to have to do that. I wonder if I can just redirect these to something else. Is it, I guess we could read the manual, couldn't we? Oh, that's horrible. Child process, we've already got it open. Okay, what do we get out? We get a process object that's out. We get spawn stood.io configurations, see options, pipe ignore Eric, pipe, or a pipe with a child process, or use default value. I think I've seen this before. I was hoping for a much more convenient thing that just has the strings, but I do think we have to build it up ourselves, which is what I'm doing up here. So one could extract this information, for example. This information is this code. I'm using a little local function here, and it does capture things like data. Streams. And that handles truncation. I don't necessarily need that. I could write a little wrapper class here, but I really am just trying to get this to work at all. So, I mean, we could, let's just host name. We could actually just ignore this for now, and I could write a to-do and just make this sleep 2. Obviously, that isn't actually. Let's get rid of splop. That was useful at once. Yeah, host name that stood out. What do I get on this? I can do on. I can push. That seems weird. On, but I don't want to. It's not a close. I can read from it, but I wonder if that's something that is actually. What do I get from this? Is a readable. I don't know if that works the way I'd like it to work. Oh, you see me floundering here. Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you, Anderson, for saying so. It's not just me. It's a team effort. There are a bunch of us who work on it, but I'm the loudmouth who has the unusual last name that makes the site what it is. All right, I'm just going to put sleep 2 because we know that the very first time that this runs, it takes longer. Excuse me, than normal, and so the sleep is not going to be enough. And what I really wanted is get positive confirmation that the host name is actually output, or I don't want it to be host name, but ideally I would say echo something like, hey, I am ready, everything's good, and I would sit there in a loop and wait until I'd seen that come out of the stream. But I will come back to that because I want to just prove to myself that this is going to work. Remember, like yesterday, we got all the way through, and then we got to the end and we realised that the approach wasn't going to work at all. So I'm just sort of trying to get from one end to the other. And let's see what that gives us. So it looks like it ran. Let's go back up and see. Oh no, it's still outputting everything. Right, let's clean slate. So we're going to do kill all firejail. We get all that parent is shutting down nonsense over there. That's another problem we have to solve, is like how to make sure this shuts down gracefully, or at least can be reset gracefully. And ideally, I'd like to start with an empty directory every single time so that I test that case where well, that's good. I just realized that means that lots of stuff is working. But where I test the case where the directory is empty, it takes longer to start up. I would much prefer that to happen every time rather than just very occasionally. Because every time the instances start up, it's going to be the same. So there's going to be empty each time, whereas every time I run it, of course, it won't be empty. And if I don't test the same thing that's happening on in production, then trouble. Alright, we have all of the output from all the compilers, and they've been jailed, and it looks like everything's just working. Let's see. So I'll reload my little local host version, and we're going to see a lot of spuming output over there, and yeah, its compilation failed. Oh, so close. We see that shouldn't be happening. Display is not set, and all this kind of startup code that's happening inside of oh, it's reading the execute.profile. Ah ha ha ha. So at the moment, when it's running the compilers, it's running it with a separate, different profile, and that means it's probably not picking up the very generous open environment that we have in the Wine profile. So execute is exactly what I want when we're running normally. So why don't we move this base options after all of the checks? So this is the code that runs when we actually execute a particular Wine thing under, sorry, when we execute a compiler under firejail. So if we need to use Wine, then we're going to do something different up here. But otherwise I'm going to say let profile equals execute, and my keyboard is lagging sadly. We're going to say prefoots to do horrid. Yes, that is horrid. The horridness there refers to the fact that I'm reaching into the end for that named wine prefix rather than actually having the setup wine return something useful for me, which I need to go back and fix as well. But again, going deep, making sure it works end to end before I get overexcited. And oh, there is no base options yet. Oh dear, see, this based options is obviously not going to be the right way to do it. So let's put that there, take him out, make that. No, that's not what I meant. Down here, regular execution, we're going to take that string and we're going to say base options dot push that string, and then up here we're going to push wine dot profile. So we're whitelisting the same directory, we're using wine, we just saved it, so it's going to restart over here. Drum roll, please. Okay, we've restarted, and we're going to refresh over here. I didn't need to refresh the whole page. I should just click the wee button down here, because now it's going to wait forever for Webpack to finish. There goes Webpack. Compilation failed still. Okay. It says an int z example.cpp, no such file directory. Well, this is what we had yesterday. So let's make sure it is running under the right. Oh, maybe. Now we have got a custom CWD, I think. This is the thing. So for those who are just playing catch up here, the way that the jailing process works is that there is the current working directory of the compiler is set to be like a unique, funny little read-writable sandbox that I can play in. But the command line parameters are all set so that what do I mean? Set to point to a temporary directory. That's how like normal regular execution works. You know, normally it's like g++/tump/ something unique /example.cpp -o /tump/ something / so you know, reading and writing from the temporary file. When we're in firejail, the only things we want to be able to read and write from that are unique to that particular compilation are the those temporary files. So what I do is I mount that as the home directory. And that means that all of the files are both readable and writable and are isolated and live just in one spot. But it means that we have to rewrite the command line so that the options that previously referred to, like the full path of the file on the host, get rewritten to be what it will look like when it's being run in the jailed environment. That said, I don't think that's what's happening here. So you can see this z./example. Z in this instance should be now the remote. I keep thinking of it as a remote, but it's not. It's a local, the jailed environment home directory. And previously this would be /tump/ whatever, but it's saying no such file or directory here. Now, the funny thing is, I'm sure I've had this working, but maybe I didn't. And maybe that means that the previous approach was working after all. And I think Pantoufel yesterday said, maybe it's this, and I didn't listen to him. And he's been right on everything else. Sorry, Pantoufel has been right on everything else. So that did not work. I'm going to go to the top of all this, find what the command line is, and we're going to try and attach to, so it's running currently. I would like to see if I can see, do I have a script or tricks to build min.gw from source? I don't know that I do. Let me just pause and take a look and see what I have in my script directories. Compiler if I do, it would be in compiler explorer image or image, and it would be inside GCC, but I don't think it does. I don't think I do. Yeah, these builds I don't think work for that. Unless it's in MISC, and I think this just builds the 6502, the oh so important 6502 compiler. No, it doesn't. I don't think I do. If we just quickly have a look, I can show you where I get my min.gw compilers from. It'll be in here somewhere. This is something else I'm supposed to be working on, but I got distracted. Min.gw, no, all right. That's not where it is. Let's search for it in here. Oh, okay. So for the Windows CE version of GCC, apparently we're using min.gw. That's interesting. I have so many compilers, I've completely lost track of what we have and what we don't have. Yeah, the dot is suspect. I get you on that, actually. That's what I'm wondering, Luca. Yeah, so sorry, Kib, I don't know if I have anything to help you there. There is the Windows CE version of GCC, which uses min.gw inside, but I don't think that is the thing. I don't think that's the real. I don't think that's going to help. Yeah, reproducible. Yeah, it's a pain. I'm sorry. Building compilers is an art form in itself, and they've gotten a lot better over the years. But it's just, you need to be tenacious and just keep hacking on it, and eventually one gets there. Yeah. So maybe it's that / like Luca, you were saying. We can definitely change that / because what I'm doing. Actually, I say that. Let's try one thing at a time. The environment is now running. I'm going to use env, wine prefix equals all of that stuff, wine host name. That still allows us to run things. So now we know we're going to say private equals /tump/ oh, my cats are marauding in the garden. Sorry, I just saw something out of the corner of my eye. Foo. There is no foo. So let's make a directory tump foo. This is similar to the temporary directory the compiler explorer makes when it's making files. I'm going to touch a file in there. Tump foo can you see me? Now we're going to do private equals tump foo. What? Oh, sorry. I've done that. It has to live before the command. So this should run. Here we are in Z, home Matthew. Now, if I do dir here, well, I'm surprised. Isn't that interesting? We don't have the jailed environment that we were thinking. That is my regular home directory, which presumably presumably is being served up by Wine server in some way, but I'm really, really surprised. I'm actually bewildered. So let's have a look at what do we get in /tump. There's nothing in /tump here. But we've whitelisted /tump CE wine prefix. I was expecting in here to see CE wine prefix, but I guess not. That's very, very interesting. Right, let's think of a way of trying to test to see whether or not this is a view of the world that the a view of the world. Yeah, last wine calls looks like it on your -- private. Yes, exactly, Joel. We know that we've got two processes that communicate with each other. We've got the wine server that lives off in, as far as I was concerned, just dealt with things like the registry and other nonsense like that. But as I've discovered when I've been playing around with this myself, there's a surprising amount of communication that goes on between the slave process and the controlling process, the shell process and the wine server process. And now it looks like possibly the even things like serving up the directories come from the wine server. Because then if that's a view from the wine server, then of course it'll only see the things that the wine server can see, which is unfortunately different from what I would like it to see. And which is kind of the whole problem we were having yesterday, written again. So I'm glad we spent a bit of time to dig into this. I should have prototyped all of this in just the command line before I went and hacked on code. But you live and learn. You live and learn. So I'm trying to think of a way of making it easy to test the hypothesis that what we're seeing here is the view of the world from the point of view from of the server process. So I'm going to bring up another terminal over here and do firejail --tree, where we've got a number of these things. So I'm assuming it's not the zombie ones. This is our host name that's running, and somewhere in here we should have. Yeah, exactly, Joel. It's tough. Also, hello, my friend. Nice to see you there. You get to see what programming with me looks like. Okay, this looks like the. Oh, that's running hostname again, isn't it? Where is the one that's running user bin wine64 server? Is that even running? Oh yeah, we have got them there. Wine server stable. Okay, it's 14.584. Okay, so we're going to do firejail, and I think there's a way of doing like ls or something like that. Thank you, my friend. Oh, there is --ls. Now there's get and put, directory or file name. Okay, so we can do ls equals get --get. I want to see if I can poke a file into the oh, excuse me. Poke a file into the private server's view, and then see if I can see it in this client view here. So name equals PID or file name. Put. So name equals or PID So we do firejail -- put equals 14,584. And then we need like a oh dear, but 2 paths expected. I wish I could have the memory to remember these things. So let's look for -- put, and it is source file name, dest file name. See file transfer. I guess we should look at that. Source dest makes sense. Okay, so we know that the server is running with. Oh, the server's not running with very much in the way of white or blacklisting. So I don't know if I can actually do something which I could discriminate between just the regular operating system and the restricted set that the server can see. So maybe that's not actually all that exciting and interesting. So why don't we do that? We're going to actually try and restrict by editing wine.profile and saying actually in here we will have that, and we will have a private etc. Sure. Okay. And we'll go over here. This should, I'm going to crash the whole thing and do kill all, firejail, run the thing again. And now we should have, assuming this works at all, testing wine, seems to have worked. Yeah, firejail ls is definitely going to help. But yeah, maybe you're right actually, Joel. I'll do that. But we now at least we have got something which means that the etc. of that remote version should be different. So font config. So let's have a look at. Yeah. So now I'm seeing the jailed environment. I can definitely tell that I'm in a jailed environment because my /etc. has a lot more than password than it usually. Okay. So far, so good. And you can tell that well, no, you can't tell anything from that. But now I should be able to run firejail. Oh, now we need to do firejail -- list. And the one we want is the server 16.294 firejail. First of all, we'll do that and just see what we get. Path expected. So let's look in its etc. There's its password. Excellent. So let's do echo moose to temp moose, which probably already exists. And then we're going to put temp moose to etc. moose. Cannot open destination file not copied. Is that zip arg, the castle arg. All right, well, instead then what we're going to do is we're just going to say we're going to make the process run with its own where is the server wine server profile equals wine.profile whitelist equals that. We'll do -- private. What that means is that the running process, the server process, will get its own unique temporary mutable home directory in theory. So I'm going to do kill all firejail, run the thing with the stuff. And I've run out of coffee. This is a terrible situation. I pulled the double bluff on my wife. I said, "Hey, you're going across the road to the school. Do you want to have a coffee? I'm making a coffee." And she was like, "Oh, actually, yes." I'm like, "No, you're supposed to say no." So I had to share it with her. But I asked, and she is lovely, so I don't begrudge it. But now I'm just desperate for more caffeine. Okay, where are we? Let's go back over to here, and first of all, let's just prove to ourselves. We do dir. Well, that's interesting. Apparently, we hang. I'm beginning to wonder if this is even going to be possible. It must be possible, though, right? What is going on here? What are you doing? The classic blunder, yes, Luca. So everything should just be working here. but I just ran dir in a temporary directory, or what I believe should be a temporary directory. Let's ls equals 16951 / home Matthew. Yeah, it's empty except for a bash RC that got created, I think. But if we now put temp moose to home Matthew moose, and then if we do ls equals that, we've got a file called moose there, but why the heck can't you see it? Why are you hanging? Okay, well, I mean, why it was hanging, beyond me. But I think we've proven pretty conclusively that despite this being its own separate jailed process in its own jail, separate jail, I try and use all the right words here, when we do dir, or when we do anything, what it's really seeing is a window into the server's worldview. This is a very simple slave process, and that surprises me greatly. And it leads me to wonder how we're going to do this. So one thing we could do is, of course, run a wine environment for every process. Like literally start up a whole wine program. That's typically normally what happens in wine, is that the wine server is actually forked and runs in the background and lives as a long-lived process, and then it times out after 20 seconds and shuts itself down. And that's so that, you know, you can run wine whatever directly. So like if I, without setting any magic environment variables here, if I do wine cmd here, we're actually looking at there should be a let's do ps tree grep wine. We should see tons of them somewhere in here. Oh, that wasn't the smartest thing. So that would be the wine server that's running because of Compiler Explorer. And then presumably this is the one that I've just run over here as part of my process. So in fact, let's try and make this look somewhat useful. Wine server 64. This is all comes. Oh, that's. Oh, maybe it's running as part of System D. So there's already one running. That is like the global system wine server, and that's what I'm using over here. And that's fine. But I'm trying to isolate this now. I suppose if I were to just run the wine server and let it see the regular /temp, it would not be the end of the world. The worry that I would have there is that as I move more and more towards a system which doesn't have any Docker, what an attacker would be able to do using the wine compilers, if I make the regular /temp available, where all the files that I'm compiling live. Let's kill all that. Is okay. Let's just log on to one of these things and find out. We go and oh no, I really please enough of the wine stuff. I'm just gonna make a new terminal. It's easier than try to convince wine not to log out to me anymore. So if I now go into admin, onto the actual Compiler Explorer machines themselves, please wait. I do have a detached mosh session because my laptop died and left one. 26395, yes. So let's tmux attach. So here we are on the Compiler Explorer admin node. And if I do C instances, actually environment, actually c-env prod login. Just log into one of the instances login. You'd think I'd know how to use my own command tools, right? And so let's log into instance 1. Why would we not log into the big fat one? There we go. This is the C5 large. Woo. Let's have a look at /temp. So we get to see some things in /temp we probably wouldn't otherwise want people to see. Now these are actually owned by root, and we'll be running as a very unprivileged user. So maybe it would be okay, but I'm sort of a little bit reluctant to rely on that. Yeah, so Luca's point here is basically what I think I'm describing, which is run one jail for both the wine server and wine. But the problem is that other... if I run a jail... I guess not, actually. Yeah, it's more a question of like I have to kind of get the temporary directory to live in one spot so that only wine files get put in a particular place that only wine applications can see. The concern here is the cross-contamination between multiple people running compiles at the same time. Now, that's actually a problem with the existing system. If you somehow could convince the compiler to list out the directory, the contents of /tump, then you can actually look at all these files anyway. So I guess I'm not too worried about that. The biggest concern is if I like make a mistake, like if I were to like echo secret password to /tump secret, which would be stupid of me, of course, but you know, humans. Hey, Shady. Yeah, exactly, Luca. I need to, but I'm trying to like re-architect the system, or try not to re-architect the system just to support wine, as it's like a 6% of all queries come through. But I want it to work. I want it to work, obviously. But if I do something daft like this, then obviously, where was I going with this? Yeah, then obviously. Somebody could use wine to then read that file, and I wouldn't want that to happen. So let's not even confuse myself with a tump secret. So anyway, I think what Luca's saying is that we should have a /tump/ something, and then that's the only thing that's seen. That makes more sense to me, and I can do that across the board. I think I can do that without really any problem, because if I go and look at the way I make temporary directories in the first place, which is... Gosh, I know we're all over the place here today. This was hopefully I was hoping this could be like a real easy, straightforward, yay, we're just going to, push it over the finish line. But again, we've opened up the door of more weird things. Lib. I think base compiler has all of this. Temp. New tempter. So this is the place where all temporary directories get created. And so if I make sure this is a subdirectory of /tump, then I can just whitelist that. And then the only thing you'd be able to do is look at the... Yeah, re-architect. So look, we already have this, right? We already have MSVAC is running on an actual Windows environment. That's all of the non-wine compilers, and Microsoft administrate it. And that's great. And the whole code base runs on Windows. But I don't want to be responsible for the... installing these proprietary compilers, administrating the Windows machine. I'm not a Windows admin. And so I asked Microsoft to pick up the slack there, and they were happy to do so, and that's great, but they are very far behind. It's running Compiler Explorer, it's running on Windows, they're responsible for securing it. And in fact, let me just show you what's happening, just so that you can see what's going on. If you go to www.godbolt.ms, you can see this is Microsoft's own version of Compiler Explorer with all of the compilers that you probably know and love from there. These are actually running on a Windows machine, administrated and run by Microsoft. I have no access to them. I can't control which version of the code is actually up there. And things like libraries, you can see this is why we can't use libraries on the Microsoft compilers right now. It's because they're not supported. What I do on Compiler Explorer is I shell out to, or rather I proxy to the godbolt.ms for all of the ones that don't have wine in brackets here. So if I look for MSVC in here, all of these are just proxied over to that other site. Whereas these wine ones here are the ones that I'm running locally using wine. Yeah, Shady, running on Azure doesn't help because it's still a Windows machine, and it's still a Windows machine that has full access to the internet and needs to be secured and administrated by somebody who knows how to make it secure, because I don't. I don't even know how to make a Windows machine just boot up and run a Node.js application without actually logging in and using a window manager to double click on stuff. That doesn't seem to be like a good way of doing it. So that's why I asked Microsoft if they would be happy to do it, and they said they were. But unfortunately, it comes with a drawback of me not being able to make changes to it. So the problem is, I put out a Twitter poll to say, would you mind if I killed off all these Wine versions of the compiler? And there were enough people who said, actually, yes, we use them. And I mean, one of the reasons that it's useful is that the libraries are available to these. What's the word? The libraries like Boost are available if you use the Wine compilers, because they do use the same file system structure as the rest of the Compiler Explorer compilers. So I'm kind of stuck with this, and I just want to make it as secure as possible. And I would like to deprecate them. And if Microsoft do move to allowing libraries, and if Microsoft do update the site, then I think I can eventually retire the Wine compilers. But right now I haven't got that choice. So because I really just don't want to disenfranchise those few people who are finding it useful. But I don't want it to be a security vulnerability. So hopefully that makes some sense anyway. So where were we? I meant, doesn't compiler MS Part run on Azure? It might do. I don't know. I presume it does. All I know is I go to that URL and it pops up with their compilers. I can't imagine it's running anywhere but Azure, but it's not really salient to me. So Compiler Explorer compiler. So this is all about like limiting this to a subdirectory, which actually is independent of that. So all right, forgetting the subdirectory stuff for a second, let's just see if we can get this working again without using a private directory, which was the problem we were having before. So under firejail exec.js, let's remind myself. Okay, so we're not going to have that whitelist. We're going to whitelist the temporary directory, or rather, it's just not going to have a temporary. Yeah, we don't even need that. We're just going to have. And the point now is that when running Wine version is access to file system. The point now is that for any compiler right now, they can access the whole file system, and that's kind of okay because they run on a Docker instance, and that Docker instance only has hardly anything on it. But I would like to run them in a more secure way, and this is what I'm trying to do now, is secure them, and then I can take them out of Docker. And the reason I want to take them out of Docker is because, in fact, to run them securely, run user code securely, I need to run in my own jailing environment, and you can't put a jailing environment inside another already jailed environment. It doesn't work that way. So, sorry, it's a bit unclear. I appreciate that it's a bit of a roundabout thing, and this is almost a distraction because everything else seems to be just working. It's just, I suppose the TLDR is I want to be able to execute user processes using firejail. Right, user compiled code, and firejail can let me lock that down so they can do barely anything at all on the machine. If I'm going to lock down user processes, then unfortunately I can't run my Compiler Explorer stuff in Docker because I can't run a jailed environment within a jailed environment, a sub-jailed environment. So I want to take Compiler Explorer out of that jailed environment and have it run things directly, and that's great, right? So I don't want to use Docker. Docker has hardly any benefit to me anymore. It used to have everything, and now Docker has like two things that I care about, and I can easily drop those. But as soon as I drop Docker, the website itself and all the compilers, etc., will be running not in some little jailed environment of their own, but they'll be running on the system, just like I've been running ls over here in this directory over here. So like, I definitely don't want to install that. They'll be running on the native system, and that's fine. There's nothing really interesting going on there. But as soon as I do that, that kind of opens me up to potentially people using the compilers themselves as an attack vector. And I know that people do this because I get emails about it all the time. The current solution for compilers, even though they're running inside Docker at the moment, is this preload. And this preload is my dreadful C code, which hacks things like fopen, create open things These essentially replace the libc implementations of opening files, and it checks an environment variable that I set to say, hey, are you allowed to use this or not? Are you allowed to open this particular file for read or for write or whatever? And so there's every compiler is executed through a script, this script here, which LD preloads, which is a horrendous trick to override the system libraries just for those files, and but essentially whitelist and blacklist things for running. So that means that the compilers are being run in sort of like this poor man's jail as it currently exists. And that does work just fine inside Docker because it's just a user mode trick. That said, it's extremely incomplete. It's really easy to get around still. And for the compilers that are statically compiled, it doesn't even work. So it's a terrible thing. It was I did it at the beginning just because I wanted people to stop accessing arbitrary files inside the Docker container. But the daft thing is, of course, they can access things inside the Docker container. They can go and get the Docker image and look at everything. It's all in there. The biggest concern is other people's code. If they could read other people's code as it was being compiled, that would be a problem. And I just want to get rid of that. So while I'm taking stuff out of Docker, I'd like to secure the compilers too in a different way. But, yes, that's right, Chady. So I'd like to secure the compilers in a different way from this terrible C preload trick. And seeing as I have this firejail thing, I want to use the same thing for same process that I'm planning on using to jail the user's code to jail the compilers. And so the compilers should be just as secure as me running arbitrary bits of code that came off the internet. Okay. Sorry if that's a recap too many times for everybody. I just want to be clear, and also it helps me get myself clear about where I am. The problem with this. Hey, Puss, you going to come and say hello to everybody? The problem is Wine, and the fact that Wine is a multi-process system, and so all the jailing things need to be a little bit more aware of it if I'm using the same system. Oh, my cat's gone. I hope that makes some sense. I'm aware that I do talk a lot, and I tend to talk around in circles, and I've pretty much confused myself. But I think where I'm leaning is what Lucas said, is that I'm going to make the temporary directory in its entirety, at least for now, available and shared between the user processes, between all the Wine processes. So they will be visible for to Wine. So this standard.inc has this private /tump in it, and I'm going to get rid of that. This is my standard shared environment thing. So I'm going to put, the shared configuration, that all the different ways I execute things under firejail are shared. I'm going to use execute, and I'm going to use sandbox. And then I'm not going to list that inside wine.profile. So wine.profile will have everything else. And it probably doesn't even need password. But the /tump directory for Wine will be the same, will be the actual computer's local /tump directory. The computer, the host. It's all a computer. I'm confused. Okay. Right. And I think we probably need to change something in exec.js as well. So I don't need to whitelist anything anymore, because, or do I? I suppose it doesn't hurt to whitelist it. So that's the Wine. Maybe this will just work as it is. I'll leave those things exactly as they are, and I'll ignore that error down there. And let's just remind ourselves what happens when we execute something under firejail. So if we need Wine, we do all of this stuff here. We whitelist that, and we use the wine.profile. Otherwise, we do regular. This is the bit that's going to have to change, I think. I wonder how this was working before, to be honest. This is the part that says if the command had to run in a particular directory, then actually mount that as the home directory, and then map anything to be dot, which is the thing that you pointed out, Luca, is like the dots, z/dot. So I am going to take I am just actually going to make that false right now, just to get this working. So we're not going to do that at all. We're just going to run everything with -- private because we know it doesn't actually matter. In fact, well, why don't we? Yeah, that makes more sense. And let me get rid of that. So all of this stuff can go inside the if it's not wine stanza. So if we're running it in wine, we just go fine, do what you need to do. This does rely on the fact that the /tump directory is the only place where the custom CWD is going to be, which is a bit of a hack in itself. And so it will just work. Should we give it a go? Guess that's why we're here. So we're going to exit there. Oh, whoops. And let's get that. I'm going to kill that shell. It's annoying me that it's outputting there. Let's do kill all firejail. Start from a clean slate. PSAUX grep wine. If we've got anything running at all, nothing. No wine running, no firejail running, nothing up my sleeves. Nothing to see here. Off we go. Okay, testing wine. So far, so good. And it would help if I were able to get the right thing up. Let's click this button. Inaccessible profile file, etc. firejail wine.profile. Why? Oh, because if we have a custom CWD, current working directory, then we are actually executing in that custom CWD. For now and for now only, I'm going to hack that in. So just say ignore the custom current working directory, and I just know that that's okay, and it may not be okay, but we'll come back to that. Let's try again. Compilation still failed. And why did you shut down? Could not load default config file. That shouldn't be a problem. Font config error. Could not find DOS drive for current working directory, starting the Windows directory. Again, not a problem, you would think. Why font config is having an error, I don't know. I mean, it does say display is not set. Now, I previously in like a script, horrible script trickery. No, in one of those. What am I saying here? The compiler explorer wrapper here, this compiler wrapper which actually wrapped all the compilers, did set this thing up as well. And I wonder if that's going to help here. It doesn't seem likely that it's going to do very much, and I should just roll that into apply winenv, you know. So let's go to apply winenv, and let's put env.display equals quote quote, because we don't want that. Okay, Chady saying, are you pushing the exec stuff into one of the exec branch? No, these are all going to master at the moment. All these changes so far have been behind flags, condition flags, so they don't apply to anything unless you actually override and say, hey, I'd like to use this new execution stuff. But I figured that we're so close now that it makes sense for it to live there. Okay. Unsupported display form, quote, quote. All right, well, that obviously didn't matter. Okay, so network feature is disabled. It's definitely using the wine. Cannot open source file source, no such file or directory. Oh, so that angle bracket source thing there is actually a post process. I look for the temporary directory name and I try and replace it with source because it helps the error messages rather than, you know, if you see error messages inside the compiler explorer output, you'll probably see something, you know, like /tump/ some horrible thing /example.cpp line 54. As nobody needs to see that. So just source. But unfortunately here it hides what's going on. So that's interesting. So none of those things actually mattered. It was just failing because it couldn't see the source, the file. No such file or directory is the real problem. And we can see what the temporary directory is here anyway, can't we? It's pretty obvious. Output.s. output.s and then temp compiler explorer blah 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 blah. So this sounds like we can't actually see the temporary directory after all. Oh, of course, because we've got that whitelist thing in. As soon as you whitelist a prefix, whitelist something, then the directory that it lives in is wiped out. And so we're currently whitelisting where the wine control files live, which is /temp/something something something. So there, we have to get rid of this. Whitelist equals prefix goes. Whitelist equals prefix goes. To do horrid goes. The whole thing's horrid. I'm going to be huge delete and retry again thing after this. Okay, testing wine. I definitely will be testing wine tonight. Okay, localhost 10240. Oh, joy, joy. Honestly, I'm so relieved. We've got somewhere and it's working, and it's still mostly locked down. Let's just remind ourselves what's happening here. We've been able to initialize wine inside the process of Compiler Explorer. Currently on the live site, there's some hacky stuff in the Docker container that starts up wine and kind of pokes it around to get it to work, to look nice. Now we're actually doing that from Compiler Explorer. We're not shutting it down well at the moment, so we're accumulating and accruing more and more and more copies of wine, but for now, let's just one thing at a time, right? We're running wine's server and the wine process under the wine server and the wine process that's going to run the compiler under a jail that is slightly different from the regular execution jail. And if I can find the darn thing, that jail is configured here in wine.profile. And wine.profile says include standard. Standard contains pretty much everything. It says drop all the capabilities, hide the Compiler Explorer node, put it in a new IPC namespace. Doesn't seem to actually put it in a new IPC namespace because I'm surprised that it's able to communicate between processes, but let's not worry about that right now. A lot of things are disabled here. Shells are disabled, MNTs, we've blacklisted some stuff. We make some directories available. We can't execute some things in temp. And that's it. And then we give it password. I don't even think it needs password, but we'll come back to that. So it's still in a pretty locked down environment. The only thing that's not locked down is the /temp directory. So if I could find some way to make MSVC running under wine on Linux access files arbitrarily in /temp that I could control easily, and one way to do that, for example, is to hash include. Let's just see what we get for you. Include etc password. Right. I mean, first of all, this used to error out, and I don't know what happened here, but somebody filed a bug recently and went, you know what, we used to stop people from doing this, and it was not really sorry, too many things at once. It's not really a prevention from this because there's ways around it, but there used to be like a simple check that just said, hey, if it looks like they're trying to include a file, then don't let them, like an absolute path name, then don't let people. But that wasn't the real protection. The real protection is the LD library path stuff. What this was doing was just trying to give somebody a helpful user error message to say, don't do that. So let's make a touch. We've got TMPMoose, haven't we? TMPMoose. Fabulous. Let's include /temp/moose and prove that we can type. Cannot open include file /temp/moose. That is surprising to me. Why can we not include it? Does it need to be Windows E? Well, I'm intrigued by that. Maybe if I put the path in as Z or Z, TMPMoose. No such file or directory. I'm kind of surprised. I'm not displeased, but I'd like to understand what's going on here. Maybe that /temp directory. No, it can't be, because like we know that it's using that temp directory because here are the files /temp compiler explorer compiler blah, 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 output.s. That's what it's doing normally. Anyone got any ideas? You know, I'm trying to use the compiler to do. Confused am I? Font config error. Yeah. Thank you, Luca. Sorry, I'm annoyingly out of phase with everybody here. Testing wine is definitely on the table now. Yes. Yeah, I'm actually meeting a friend this evening, and I plan to test wine with him and his wonderful wife and new baby. How do I make? So Shady, how do you plan to manage local CE instances? Do you keep the current mode and detect automatically if it's live site or local? Shady, all of these things are done through configuration. So you know, it'll be in the compiler explorer.amazon.properties that says to turn these things on. I've just got a local file here that's overriding it. Let me just show you what I mean. So if I have a look at this is normally an execute. So execution.defaults.properties says sandbox type equals none. And I should probably put the execution type equals none in here as well. Execution type equals none. Wine server, wine prefix, firejail equals firejails, right? And then, yeah, no, I'm not jailing it that way, actually, Luca. That's what's making me surprised. But just to finish off this thing here, then if you look at execution.amazon.properties, I mean, the sandbox type equals Docker there, that's going to go. That would be firejail, but we're not even running with that at the moment. And then we'll need an execution type in here eventually once we have that. And that's an execution of the compiler. But then in my local file here, execution.local.thingamajig, local.properties, I'm using firejail, and I've got wine and wine saver. They're pointing at my actual local versions here. So to answer Luca's question, am I gelling so that /temp becomes /home? No, I'm not. That was that whitelist and that -- private equals. And so I'm not doing that anymore. I've just said temp is fair game, or it should be. I guess one thing we can do is we can connect a, let's do end wine prefix equals that's wine fables, blah, 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 blah. Let's go to /temp and do dir. There's no moose file. There is a moose file. See, there is moose there. I can see it. This is what I was expecting to be able to see. So, whatever's going on, I don't know. But you know, this is me running CMD with the same settings as the compiler would be running with. Oh, except for that whitelist. Yeah, well, again, we know that none of the command line options matter there because we're connecting to the wine server, and the wine server knows what to do. Knows what to do. So the wine server is the thing that's going to actually run in the jail and have access to files or not. All right, well, I'm going to exit that, and I'm going to do a bit of a sort of see where I am. Let's see where we are with all of this. So I'm going to run my favorite diffing tool, meld. So let's look at the defaults properties. We've removed wine from compiler explorer properties because now I have decided that all of the execution related things should live in execution.properties. I think that's a sensible enough decision. The default sandbox type for Amazon is now firejail and not Docker. I will probably remove Docker in a second because Docker's probably not a good idea. Docker is not really a secure environment. This isn't being used anywhere because execution is not enabled on Amazon, as you probably have noticed. We've made this the default, so we're saying that by default, if we wanted to sandbox a program, and just to be clear here, sandboxing here means running user code. Execution in general is just like everything else. Anything else we need to exec, we'll use some other thing. So the type of none means just run the damn thing. Darn thing. We pointed at wine and wine server, and we say, hey, by default, the wine prefix is going to live there, which it could be anywhere. Firejail equals firejail. Now, I'm wondering if this should just be done with a temporary file, but we'll come back to that. execution profile. Right. This was me saying taking private temp out of the standard. That means that all of the things that we're doing, be it wine or sandboxing regular applications or executing regular applications, it used to be that everybody got their own private temp, which meant that all of the temps couldn't talk to each other. And I've taken that out by default, and instead I've moved it into execute.profile for execution and sandbox.profile for sandboxing. And the wine profile doesn't have that. That means that the wine profile actually sees the local host /temp, which means that everybody can we can write things into /temp and then just use the path that we saw in /temp as the place to what? Come on, brain. I'm so sorry. I'm starting to go a little bit crazy here. To the we can basically just point the wine processes and use file name paths that point that are valid inside the wine server as well, because everyone agrees on what everything is in /temp. We'll come back to exec.js because that's the big change. Okay, here what I did is I took exec out of winevc.js because now instead of the regular execution system being unaware of wine, the default won't use with firejail. You're right, Shady. The default doesn't use firejail. For a local, yes, correct. The local instance won't use firejail locally. That was something we showed over here. If I go and look at the execution defaults, we can see that the sandbox type and the execution type are none, which means that they just run the things directly. They don't have any kind of special handling. So coming back to Wine VC, it used to be the case that if you needed wine, you had to kind of roll it yourself. And what I've done now is I've made it so that everything inside of the compiler, everything that runs a .exe file on Linux automatically uses wine. We don't have to special case it here. So we don't have to do anything special in this place. We don't have to do anything special in this place either. So these were essentially duplicated bits of code that I could now get rid of. And instead, it's all handled by exec. And exec is mostly the same. We've added this execute firejail, which is for regular execution using firejail. And that was the subject of 2-3 days ago. We now have a bit of code that knows how to run stuff under firejail. Oh, hang on a second. No, that was there from a couple of days ago. I'd forgotten. We already had covered that. But now we've taught execute firejail and execute direct. Somewhere in here, execute direct should know about this. Hang on. Maybe it's at the bottom. Yeah, execute none. So execute none is like if you have specified none. Shady, that firejail equals firejail. So if you need the firejail command, what should I run? And I just said firejail. It means that you can specify the path there. Sorry for being so out of phase here. I'm going to have to get a drink in a second. Execute none. So if we need wine, it goes to wine. Otherwise, it just executes it direct. And that means that the firejail command now can tell whether or not it needs wine. If it does this. Otherwise, it does the other thing. Okay. And there's this whole process up here for initializing wine. And that's the thing I need to look over and convince myself is right. We've got several things we need to fix in there. First of all, there's this horrible delete custom CWD, which I don't like. Relies very much on knowing what the CWD is. There is this whole... my brain will get with this in a second. Please to wait. Yes, this initialize wine thing needs to know how to set up wine properly. At the moment, it's very hacky, it's very hard coded, and a lot of stuff ends up being, we end up with tons and tons of extra firejails and extra wine servers running that we don't want. I need to put comments in here because it's totally unobvious why, excuse me, why we need to do this testing wine and this host name and detach from it and wait for it. And I'm not even sure that that's right yet. We may actually have to do something else here. Excuse me. So that's what we're going to do in a second. It is now 11:20. I'm going to get myself a drink, which I'll get a Coke for speed. So yeah, I will do this. AFK 10 seconds. Poor man's announcement. Back in a second. are we? Also, if anyone has any ideas about how best to test this, I'd like it. It's just so many of these things rely on very subtle, weird interactions with both wine and firejail, which don't really seem very amenable to testing. Right. I'm just going to do git add dot. It gives me some kind of hope that we've locked in some version. I'm not going to push anything, and that's just more nervous habit. So let's take this one step at a time. Let's have a look at initialize wine. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm not running anything. I am. I'm going to kill all firejail, kill all PSAUX grep, firejail gone, wine gone. We're in an empty world here, and I don't like the idea that the wine directory. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't like the fact that a wine directory is specified as a /temp and therefore is always recreated every time. But there are two things about this. I would love to stop any existing wine process from running, and the only way really to do that is to have that wine directory, because there are ways that I can communicate with the wine daemon and say, stop, please, if I know which directory it's running in. So I'm going to leave that for now, even though I'm going to raise a red flag on that. If there's another way of me shutting down Compiler Explorer's own wine without using that would be great. And then I can use a temporary directory every time for the wine prefix. And then every startup will look like a cold startup. So talking of that, let's do a cold startup. There's not going to be anything in the wine prefix right now. Maybe there's a good hybrid approach we can do here. Right, I'll come back to that. So we've got wine prefix is there. I am going to first of all see what state we left it in. If, for example, I am not using firejail, and that is going to be an execution.local.properties. So execution type equals none. We're just going to run things normally as can be under wine. Let's see what happens. So I've forgotten where we left this. Testing wine. Well, that was lovely. It just worked. It did just work. Wine initialized okay. So wine initialized okay comes from there. Testing wine, we do this exec sync stuff. That's the thing I don't like. If you were here earlier, then you know that I kind of completely punted on that. Oh no, that is. Oh no, that's confusing. Why did that work? Oh, I thought I understood this. Thanks, Chady. Yeah, I hope so too. I really want to put this to bed, and then I want to spend the next week doing like the undockerification of Compiler Explorer so that we can run the beta site and actually enable execution for the first time. Woohoo! Then I can spend time on the UI making that look nice. Thanks, mate. So, firejail tree. Oh, we don't have a tree, of course. Oh, right. Firejail was the reason why the process didn't exit, because the firejail process doesn't exit until every child of that process exits. Now, we didn't do that here, so the host name runs and everything is fine. Okay, I think I know what I mean here. So we had a problem before where this child process.spawn used to hang, basically, because if you use a spawn sync there, then it waits for the process to finish. And if the process doesn't finish, because firejail doesn't exit until all of its children have exited. what we know is that the very first wine command you run, this hostname command in this example, will then also run all of the like, what's the word? Will also run the like background processes like system.exe and other things that wine needs to run, which I was hoping the wine server would run, which would make more sense, right? But apparently not. So I'd like to unify these two pieces of code. What would that look like? I would like to run the process, and then until it's actually output something I would like that I can see the output of, I want to just block. So let's see what that would look like. Let's get my let's do env wine prefix is that, and we're not going to run firejail because we're not in the firejail world here. We're just going to say user user bin wine 64 wine stable wine 64 stable, and then command hooray exit. But what I really want to do is I want to do stuff like echo it works exit, pipe through that, you know, some unique-y looking thing that I can look for in the stream output to know that everything is groovy and we can get on with our lives. That's the ideal. And annoyingly, I can't pass command. CMD doesn't let you pass any command line options to it because it's Windows, and that's just irritating. I mean, hostname works, of course, but I need to know what hostname is going to get back out. What else do we have, though? If I were to just do that. Okay, so we're going to do exec. We're actually going to spawn, and we're not going to use sync here. We're going to sort of block on it because I want to use the same bit of code for these in both these situations here. Or something very, very similar. Okay, wine. So, comment those out for now. Child underscore process dot spawn, and I need to come up with comments for this because this would not be obvious at all. So I'm going to say wine. I'm going to say cmd. Then the commands the options are just a single command of that. Env. We need to pass the environment. We're going to say stood IO is echo it works. I think I can do this. Comma pipe. Why are you angry? Oh, because I put things in the wrong place. And then we're going to do, and this should be promisified because it's horrible, but I do want to make this a sort of sync version. Not int, God, listen to me. Let I equals naught, I is less than 10, plus I. We're going to use the sleep thing, child process dot exec sync sleep 1. There's got to be a better way. Why are you so angry? Argument types do not match parameters. What? I think they do. Child is process spawn. We pass it a string and an array of arguments and then some options. Right? String argument options. What am I missing here? What? We'll come back to that. The IDE is usually right about these things. We're definitely going to do const wait for OK. We're going to call that for now. And we do wait for OK dot stood out dot on. I'm going to steal the code from up here or something a bit like it. Set up stream on data. I'm going to steal all of that. Yikes. Undo, redo. Horrible trick for getting to where I was before. Everything is wrong with that. We don't have streams of that. We don't have a name. We're just going to have let output equals an empty string. And we're going to say for data, new length, we don't need to worry about any of this nonsense here. We're just going to say output plus equals data because we don't care about how much data is being created here. We can get rid of that, make this even smaller, which pleases me. And we're going to say console, no, we're going to logger.info output. And that's what we're going to do for now. That's terrible. It's grotesque. Nobody should be doing something as horrible as that, but I want to make sure I'm making progress before I get too excited. And I have about half an hour of programming time left. Okay. I saw unhandled promise exception up here somewhere. Okay, what did we say? We said asynchronous forks do not support buffer, typed array, data view, or string input. All right. So we can't put echo it works directly in there, but I know that I can pass things in because I do so over here. So what do we do? Streams, on data, on exit, on close. Oh, I think we just write to it directly and then call end. Beautiful, wonderful. So we're going to get rid of that. We can get rid of, in fact, we can get rid of all of that because I think it by default goes to pipe. And that just means env is env there. We're going to wait for child process dot spawn. We're going to say wait for OK dot stood in dot write echo it works. And then wait for OK dot stood in dot end of stream. Is that what I did up there? I've got such a terrible memory. Just end apparently, child.stoodin.end. We're okay. Why so angry? Oh, aha! See? See? Everything's so lovely. What do we see now? Going a little bit funny in the head now. Yeah, no output at all, you see. Interesting, eh? Am I running command? I am running CMD apparently, but nothing actually seemed to come out. Unless it's stdir, which will also trap here. And I know that I shouldn't be writing to the same thing, but that same string thing. No, that's not working. Is it? Is it? So why does that not work? Does this stoodin.write not take a string? Options.input. I would imagine, without a doubt, that options.input is a string in every other case. So I don't think it's that. Oh, because I put output and I didn't actually... Oh, you fool. I meant to put not out... Whoa, my computer is having a bad time. Wow, everything is going a bit laggy at the moment. Poor thing. Well, didn't help, did it? Didn't help. Blast. Just humour me. I'm just having a moment of maybe it doesn't work the way I think it should. I have really no idea what my poor computer is doing. It is running very hot. I can hear it. The fans are all on full pelt right now. And clearly it's... Okay, well, OBS taking a whole CPU is not surprising as it's doing all of this encoding and streaming, but Java is having a moment. Indexing, it says. Yeah, maybe you're having a bit of a bad time, IntelliJ. Because you really are going funnily unresponsive. Okay, it says it's finished indexing now. So maybe I'll get control back, but it doesn't not looking good so far. So see how many wine servers we've got knocking around as well. Only one, because this process actually does shut down the pre-existing wine servers, okay, which is what I want to happen when we're running under firejail 2. And maybe as a result of... Oh, good grief. I am terrible at this. This needs to be the wee backtick thing. As does that. And then we're going to see that it's still an empty string, aren't we? Yes, yes we are. Yep. Okay. Well, that clearly that is not actually working. Is there something I need to do? Is there something I'm missing here? Because I'm calling this spawn function, and you'd imagine I would see something. I mean, what if I were to make this wine -- help? Right? You'd expect to see something come out of that. Well, unless I need to run the message pump in order to actually get it to work. That would be unfortunate, wouldn't it? Maybe I do actually... Maybe all that stuff uses asynchronous callback. All those on things, of course, aren't going to be called. Blah! Alright. I'm going to have to make this into a promise. And that's probably for the best. I was being lazy before, wasn't I? Yes, yes I was. Okay, so if we need wine, apply wine env, else... I think we're going to have to do this sort of differently. So apply wine env is the thing that's currently initializing wine. And I think I'm going to get rid of that with this. So this whole thing sucks. This is just a function, so we can get rid of it. Apply wine env. Apply wine env is used in 2 locations now, and that is all brilliant. So we're going to say initialize wine prefix. Oh, this needs the env, of course it does. Grr. Env null dot then execute that. Right, this is the quietest I've been, right? Because I'm actually having to think in a different way. So prefix comes from... I think I need to do this as it was before. The apply the wine env is... The whole point is that the only time we know what the wine env is once we've initialized it. Yep. All right. Back to where as we were. apply winenv, initialize firejail. Yes, okay. Except that apply winenv now is not going to be apply winenv. It's going to be, it's going to return a promise, and that promise will have the environment in it. So we're going to do this equals apply wins blah. So we're going to do return apply winenv options. Apply winenv options.env comma null. Then, and we're going to get this env, and that env will allow us to set options.env equals env, basically this stuff, right? And we've got too many of those things there. That wasn't so hard, was it, to do it properly? It's always better to do it properly. Just realised I haven't been checking anything over there for a while. But we're okay. I'm wondering if I'm starting to talk to myself now. Which would be fine. I'm quite happy talking to myself. Okay, otherwise, this apply winenv here. Right, yes. So if we need wine, then we need to do the same thing. We need to... excuse me. I think this is just going to separate at this point. We won't fall into the same code at the bottom. So if we need wine, we're essentially going to pick up that line there. And this is not null. This becomes firejail. Then we do some stuff, and that's a return, so we don't need this to be else anymore. But options.env equals env, args.unshift that command, all of that nonsense there. We're going to come back to this delete. We're going to put just a to do question mark exclamation mark sorry there, and then these two lines need to move into there. And I don't really mind that I've duplicated that. They are very different. And I might separate this out still. Okay. Does that look okay now, I think? Wine execution via firejail. It occurs to me here that we might... this is stinky stuff, yes. It occurs to me that we might have some problems with... re-entrancy, recursion type stuff, because two things may fire up and both try to initialize wine now, because we're giving them both a chance to run. So I'm going to so this wine server is the thing that tells us if we are initializing or not. Oh golly, I am not sure how to do that. Because what we're going to do is effectively multiple things could stack up all waiting for wine to initialize. That's exactly what's going to happen at startup. I mean, every compiler is going to try and run, and each of them is going to hit this this line, and they're all going to try and initialize wine at the same time. And I don't want multiple initializations, obviously that would be terrible. So I need to make sure they all wait for the initialization to complete. And I'm doing this lazily because I don't want, obviously, anyone who is not caring about wine to have to worry about it. But maybe this is more complicated than it needs to be. Maybe if I don't do it lazily. If I don't do it lazily, then I can do it at startup in one place, single-threadedly, and we don't have to worry about all of this. This is how it's going to be. And I will use the fact that if you set wine to be anything other than null, then it is expected that you will be running wine. And if you don't set it, then you're done. Does that seem reasonable? I think that seems reasonable. So let's have a look at execute.profile, execute.default. No, execution.default. And we've got wine and wine server. I think if I make these both empty, there are very few people who will care about There are very few people who will care about these things being working. I'm sure it's just literally me, I think, is the only person who really cares about that. So initialize wine is going to say, if not wine, return promise. So we don't need to worry about that, because that's not, that probably is okay. Promise dot it's not reject, it's the other one, resolve. It's just an empty promise, I don't care. An empty promise. Otherwise we're going to do all this nonsense down here. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toath did gyre and gimble on the wabe. Initialize wine, initialize wine, initialize wine. That's not going to happen here. That means we don't need firejail there. Apply wine env is just... Oh, you see, I should have undone some more things before I got this far. Apply wine env. This was just option. Yeah, this is this. Options.env equals. That one's an easy one to undo. This is going to be more tangled, isn't it? So I'm just going to steal that command there. I don't like the way that I've done this at all. Equals apply options.env. That all comes back down there. Firejail equals that. We're going to inline that up the top. Is that used anywhere else? Execute firejail. That can go. I think this is only used in one place, so we'll inline that. Inline 2 occurrences. 2? Where's the other one? Yeah. It's not a constant. It is a constant, actually. Sorry, I realised it's a constant. I'm going to do it myself manually. I don't trust the IDE. Otherwise, we do that thing. That looks great. Ish. That's still a to-do. Oh, there's a firejail down there. Yeah, okay. Sorry. There are 2 of them. The IDE was right. I was wrong. Splendid. Okay, so apply wine env is just simple. And now we actually have to have initialize wine is initialize wine. Actually, but we can actually make this simple. This is a new thing in the good JavaScript. The new JavaScript is initialize wine. We take a prefix, we take an environment, we take firejail. Now none of those things are indeed actually true anymore, because we can go and get them. This is just done during startup. So I don't mind apply wine. Let's yeah, what is that doing? This seems a bit of a funny thing to do, doesn't it? Well, we're going to call it up here. So const env equals apply. Oops, apply wine env empty. Right, and that gives us env there. And we're going to load up firejail. Oh, I see. So now the only thing we need to know is whether we're running under firejail or not, which is sort of nasty. Right, I'm going to hard code this again for a second. This is not hard code, but like there are 2 places that use the same code here. If exec prompts blah blah equals firejail, so const firejail equals so if it's equal, if the execution type is firejail, then we want to get exec props firejail, else we want null. And that's not how you write this at all. Alright, so I've got a friend coming around in a minute. Okay, so we can get rid of that. Okay, the last thing we've got here is prefix, and prefix is coming from where? previously prefix comes from apply wine env, apply wine env, apply wine env, exec props wine prefix, and it's also stored in here. So I'm going to put back that horrible thing I was doing before, and in initialize this prefix we get apply env equals that. I'm going to say const prefix equals env.wine prefix, because why not? Okay, so now initialize wine can just be run by anyone, and that obviously needs to be 3 equals is because JavaScript. And if there's no wine, we're going to say promise.resolve, and we might as well say logger.info wine not configured. Otherwise, we're initializing wine in prefix. Yes, all this stuff is wunderbar. Killing any pre-existing and all of that stuff. And then at the end of all this, at least to start with, I'm going to do return promise.resolve also empty string. Oh no, just resolve, just anything, just to say we're done. Okay, so now we're going to go into app.js, which is like the root of Compiler Explorer. And in here somewhere, there is a whole bunch of initialization nonsense. So aws.initconfig, then do all of this stuff. Now that is an AWS thing. Function to load that. Well, we're gonna. This is where we're gonna do it. Then we're gonna then. And here we're going to say exec.initialize wine. Call. Golly. Initialize wine. We can just require it directly actually. ./lib/exec.initialize wine. I think if I could program it would help. God, this is a big function. I think I can just throw that in there directly. Initialize wine. So far we haven't made it any better. We just have got rid of this problem. Yeah, I thought about that global, but these things still have to wait, and that's difficult to do. So you can protect it from re-entrancy there. So this seems to be working. Yeah, that was my initial thought, but then I need to sort of rack up a whole bunch of promises that themselves will only return when the original wine initialization is completed and successfully, and that just seemed more trouble than it's worth. So I think this is okay. All right, now we can actually take advantage of this being a set of promises. So this is all sync stuff, and I don't propose to change that necessarily. I don't really care for those types of things. But this bit, on the other hand, can. So we're going to return a new promise here. Return new promise, which takes accept, reject, and gives us this thing, and we're going to take all of that nonsense there, poke it in, and for now nothing is going to happen. We're going to actually make a new stood out function, and on stood out we're going to do out plus equals data, and then we're going to put that logger.info in here. And now this is obviously going to block forever, which is what I want for now, because I don't actually want to run stuff. And I need to keep an eye on both the time and whether or not my friend is about to turn up. Total graphics stuff. Okay, killing any pre-existing wine server. Except is not defined. What is that? Oh, it helps to use valid syntax, right? So this is a this takes two thingies. That closes down there, and then that closes that one. Are we good now? Yes, we're good now. I wonder how interesting this is to anybody else. Is it just me talking to myself? But this is an interesting window into at least one approach to programming. I'm very much a bang the keyboard and make it work. Unhandled error event. Okay, and now it's going to go into an infinite loop because the system supervisor that runs this will keep running. Oh my god, it is a lot of compilers. Emitted error event at here. E-pipe. What does that mean? What does that mean? Do I have to wait on that as well? Or is this the E-pipe I get from writing? Or what? Okay, thank you, Luca. It's just you and me by the looks of it. But that's cool. It's helpful for me to explain what I'm doing out loud. And if you get anything from it, I'm delighted. So emitted an error event at that. So maybe I just need to catch that error event like I am up here. So this is where I do a normal execution. On error, on close. These two functions I know I need anyway. So undo, redo. Wait for OK to that. These are not child. This is wait for OK, wait for OK, wait for OK. And that's not code. Well, it is code, I suppose. For now, we're going to reject on either of these things. Close, close, listen to function code. If code equals null, that's that. Okay. Let's steal the logger.debug here. Whoops. Right, we don't have a command because the command is this thing from up here, and we're just running wine. Oh yeah, we're running wine dash dash help. I forgot that I changed all that as well. So let's get rid of that. Debug. So error. Actually, for now, let's kill both of those there. And that. Event close code. Logger.debug code. I just really want to get my head around what these things ought to be like. And eventually we should be able to like run that thing, discover that it's okay, and then get on with our lives. So E-pipe. I think that's probably because of this, because at the moment there isn't anything to do. Like there isn't a process on the other end to receive the data we're writing to it. That's what I wanted to see. Why it's going around in an infinite loop, I don't know. Debug 0. And that's the code that it exited with. But why did it restart? It exited with code 0. Why? Why did you exit with code 0? I didn't say to do that. I mean, we can do this now and actually run the thing, and hopefully we see it say it works. No, still no. Confused am I. Do I need to do this as detached? I think that was something, if it's Linux, I'm doing that, yeah. So let's make it detached in here. It's sort of a last Hail Mary. But I don't think so, now I say that out loud. Not assignable to parameters. Yes, all right. Let's not muddy the water. Change one thing at a time. Okay. After right wrap, after right, unhandled error event. Are these errors on the stream? Of course, set up on error is this thing here. I'm basically ending up rewriting that same function there. Oh, is that the post? It is. So we'll steal it. Set up on error. Wait for OK. Dot stood in. Out. Out. Well, I'm probably going to have to stop fairly soon, if only from brain fatigue. Okay, E-pipe. I still don't know why it's restarting. I don't know why the process exits here. So we've got multiple mysteries going on. Oh golly, need to get fewer compilers in here. So we get this E-pipe. And it exits with 1, and that's okay. Ah, of course. Once there's nothing left to wait on, the whole thing stops. So we need to have something else running, or else Node goes, "Hey, you've got a system that's not waiting for anything to happen, so I should stop it probably." So once that promise exits, then we're done. We're done for. So for now, I'm just going to put except down there, which is not where I want to put it. To do not here, because what I want to do is reject there unless I want to accept to do except once we see it works or whatever come through the pipe. That means that everything's running. We've been able to communicate with Wine. The world is a happy place. And we can get on with our lives, but that's not what's happening right now. So it will work now because I've just accepted blindly when the thing closes down. So stood.in.stream e-pipe. I wonder why that's not working. Let's go and look at the documentation quickly. Stood.io, stood and let's stood.io specify default pipe. See, that makes sense. And I'm doing it up here, aren't I? So let's stood in, set up on error, on exit, do the needful thing. If options.input child.stoodin.write. I don't think we do anything else there. Where do we create that child? Child is env just detached. We don't specify anything special for the processes, the stood in and stood out, but we can't apparently write to stood in. I don't really want to write to stood in. This is the whole point of this. Is I would love to pass something here. So I wonder if I can get away with an exec. No, we can't get away with execs, anything like exec, because they will block until the thing has returned. And the whole point of this is that firejail doesn't return in this instance for the very first process we run under Wine, because there is a long-lived process that it creates, and firejail will stick around babysitting that long-lived process until that long-lived process goes away. And this is kind of our way of forcing a one-off thing of like servers running in one jail, then we run the long-lived process in the same jail, and we're done. But what if I were to make that host name? And what if we were to get rid of those two things there? What would you say about that? Oh, thank you, Alexander. I've just seen that as well. Thank you for your comment. Okay, let's go back. Golly, so many compilers. There we are. So testing wine, debug 1. So that did not work. So we actually got an error back from that, and we saw nothing come out from the so testing wine with wine. Let's get rid of those. That should probably go into the promise. Missing after argument list. Where? Oh yes, there. Oh, I'm going to get rid of the dash debug for now. It's just so much output. We probably need more sophisticated log handling rather than just all or nothing. Okay. Testing wine with user bin wine64 stable. And we should say wine test exited with code and turn that into the magical thing. And again, that should not be there, because what we should expect to see is with exit code 1. Stood in, stood out. Let's get stood error as well then. What the heck? And I'm going to just copy paste the code here as well. It's just... Yeah, I've mixed them together. Wine could not exec the wine loader. Aha! You see? That is important, n'est-ce pas? I think this is now an earlier... So I had this before because the wine server needs a bit of time to start up, and yeah. So now I can actually schedule this and actually run it in a couple of seconds time or something like that. I mean, ideally not. Right. Let's start with cheese, because my mind's wilting yet again. No, let's not start with cheese. All right, let's do it properly. Properly. No sleep. How do we do that? How do I wait? Set timer. Of course it is. Set. What? You better not have brought anything in. I'm sorry. Well, my cat had actually just caught a bird, which luckily flew out of its mouth and ran off as soon as, and I was able to open the front door, and the cat it went outside. But yeah, I know you're upset. Stop doing it. There's got to be a nicer way of doing this. Yeah, see that. You can use the news await sleep, and then this. Yeah, I should learn how to use this await. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. Silly cat. Let's do that. I can at least tidy this up. I don't even need that, do I? I'm just going to do that. Cat's in a mood with me now. Then what? Then this thing. Oh, I've confused myself now. How do I mix promises and thens? I think I can just do it like this. More nesting, you know, this is a thing that we're supposed to... What? No, it's too confusing. I've made it too nesty. So this whole return new promise can be like const foo for now. I should stop using foo. Kate Gregory makes a very good point about using foo and bar, and we should stop using them. Go watch her talks. And I'm trying to train myself, evidently not with not great success. So this is init promise equals that. So that is all good, and then we're going to say then init promise. I think that's it. Why you complain? Because why are you complaining here? It's not assignable to value type any. Oh. Is that what I need to do? And then we're going to say 1,000 milliseconds here. So we're going to wait 1 second. This is terrible, and we shouldn't be doing it, but. And it requires a comment. Everything needs to be commented here once I'm actually certain I understand what's going on. So that apparently was not long enough. If indeed this is the problem. Right, so we'll make it 5 seconds, which is what I had in my original script, was of sleep 5. This is not a good thing. No programming solution should ever be sleep. It didn't seem to wait, did it? I mean, I'm not being funny here. But there's no gap between wine server pid equals that and the actual... Yeah, thank you, Luca. That is clearly not working the way that I thought it was working. So returns a new promise which says that. It calls resolve. Resolve should then resolve and just move on to the next thing, and then we should get this, which does this get... Oh, it gets started instantly. Of course it does. Okay, I am not clever at this. I should be able to get rid of that because it's a single statement, and there should be an error at the bottom. Is that it? How many of these do I need to do to make it go? One more. And okay, we still have a 5 second timeout. That's pretty dreadful. I don't know if there's a way of asking the wine server process if it is ready. Obviously, detecting the error and retrying would be a way to do this. Could not exec the wine loader. That's sadness to me. And now, this is the problem we exhibit if we don't get this thing right. Because you notice that this gathering ARM information has hung. It's because the first of any of those processes is now the one that's running all of the long-lived processes and is not completing. So we're running this, running wine with hostname. We're giving it the right environment. I mean, maybe the env is wrong. Maybe the env is not coming out. So we do apply wine env and we get all of this stuff and return. No, that looks good to me. And in fact, if we look up here, which should say creating wine directory, initializing wine in wine c wine prefix, yes. ARX grep wine. We have like the wine server is running and that looks okay. We're not in firejail, so I can ignore all of that and I'm going to hide it for a second. We wait 5 seconds and then we're doing testing wine with that. So let's run it manually. Oh, it's so painful. And we have, it says running wine 164 stable, and we're running it with, in theory, the command host name. Why? Why the suffering? I mean, seriously, why? Why? What is going on here? Do I need more timeout? I can't imagine that I do. For the sake of just trying to understand, I am going to make it 30 seconds, which is far, far too long. So here we are, waiting our 30 seconds. I do hope we get a breakthrough soon. You know, all the pieces are there, I think, now. I think with all of the work today, we're close. And then hopefully either over the weekend or early next week, I can start the process of actually firing up a non-Docker version of Compiler Explorer. And did that work? Could not exec the wine loader. Okay, what do we get when we so wine? It just works. Right, what else do we have in our env? Let's just make sure we're using this. Wine DLL overrides is another thing. Wine DLL overrides equals. Yeah. Yep. It does feel that way. VC runtime 140 equals B. Wine debug equals minus all. See, it works fine. Env detached true. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm gonna make wine super verbose. Thank you, Luke. Huh? We may regret the amount of extra information we're gonna get here. It's gonna be something obvious, isn't it? It's gonna be something really irritatingly obvious. Oh, we don't need 30 seconds. That's daft. I think 2 seconds. 2.5 seconds. You know. It's nice that it keeps outputting my Google API key. Whoops, should probably get rid of that. You watch, it'll work now. But maybe this is too verbose. What do you think? Yeah, I can't tell what the heck happened in there. Stop! I've hit Control-C, I promise you. Okay, I will just make that back. Whoops. This line, where's the all? Back to minus all. and then comment it out, and we'll just run with the default level of verbosity, and hopefully that something comes out of that. Oh, thanks, Wine. Wine could not exec the wine loader. Why don't we solve Wine? This is hopeful, right? Whenever yeah. Which wine server? User bin wine. Cat proc. That. My magic thing. Let's go and see what 32054 is. So, what? Oh. The wine server we are running is not the wine server we think. Oh, no, it is. It is, sorry. 32054 must have been the executable that forked, like the bash that forked the wine server that it then detached. So wine prefix is indeed term-c wine prefix. Okay, cool. For a while, yes, some. Is some actually a thing? I would like to know what this actually means. Oh, we're going to find all the problems. App armor settings and other. Alright, I am losing the will to live right now. Not true. Sorry, I shouldn't joke about such things. I'm losing focus. That would be a fair way of putting that. I'm going to put to do needed question mark. This we need to go to do pause output, and only when we see correct output resolve. Oh, sorry, accept, which is actually should be resolve, shouldn't it? Resolve and reject, not accept. So let's rename that now. And somewhere down here we've got accept, which is definitely should have automatically updated. And then obviously there's a giant to do of here, to do fix and unify with below. So I'm really punting. Yeah, aside from trying to fix a wine issue, what am I working on? Yes, sorry. This is all about trying to get execution support in Compiler Explorer, because it's one of the things that is more exciting and interesting, but also it comes with a lot of security flaws, and so I'm trying to unify all the security issues into one, have one solution to make everything work nicely, and we have that, except it doesn't work with wine, and I'm just banging my head against it and trying to make wine support better. So I think actually I'm going to take a rain check now and pause, because this has been 2.5 hours of me talking, and I'm pretty much spent. Plus, I'm anticipating hearing back from a friend very soon, and or I should be going across the road to see my son's stuff. So I'm going to stop now. Thank you for watching. I really, really was hoping to get a lovely "and it now just works" moment here, but I fear that that's not going to happen. It may happen later on, off camera. I'm going to pace around a bit and hopefully come up with some inspiration or any obvious things. Thank you everyone so much for your support and watching and comments. It's so helpful to have a second opinion. I hope that I can do a cast soon that is more interesting and gets some clear and obvious progress being made, but this is how this stuff works out. So sorry to stop just as you joined in, Jip, but hopefully another time. I'll be probably doing one on Monday, and I'm also hoping to do one on C++ sometime soon, as opposed to horrible JavaScript code that I'm clearly not very good at. You can have a laugh at my C++ code another time. So thank you all, everyone. I'm now going to spend ages in the UI trying to find how to turn things off. Oh, yes, here we are. I will see you another time. Take care. Bye.